Hello, Leo. My name is Jason Augustus Newcomb, and I'm going to give you a general reading today for the energy flowing through your sign for the month of June 2016. Now, I want to say, first of all, I'm a Leo too, so this reading applies to me as well as to you, and that's both good and bad. Right? Because this reading has both good and bad things in it. So anyway, the reading system that I'm going to be using is something called Geomancy. It's often also called Terrestrial Astrology. It's one of the oldest divination systems in the world, and it's often considered to be one of the more accurate divination systems because you asked for insight and wisdom directly from the anima mundi, or soul of the world. So to begin the reading process, we need to have four mother symbols, and in this case our four symbols are Tristitia, Rubeus, Caput Draconis, and Amisio. Now, those aren't really the best to begin with. Tristitia, which is the first one, it means sadness and feelings of loneliness and isolation and a little bit of a bummer. A little bit of a bummer this month for Leo, but we can work our way up from here. This isn't the worst thing in the world. The second one is Rubeus, which is also not considered to be the most favorable card. It represents passion and intensity and heat. Things being topsy-turvy. And that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but it's not necessarily the best thing in the world either. The third one is Caput Draconis. That means the head of the dragon, and it means new beginnings, new things happening, possibilities. So that's not too bad. But then the fourth one is Amisio, which means loss. Now, it doesn't fall in the worst, for my life anyway. It doesn't fall in the worst house because it's has to do with that will fall in the fourth house in the horoscope that we'll get to in a minute. And that falls under the heading of father and inheritances and stuff like that. And I know my father's not going to be giving me anything, so it's a loss anyway. So from the four mothers, we established the rest of it: the four daughters, the four nieces, the two witnesses, and the judge. And here, that's the whole reading there. And as you can see, the judge is the sign Conjunctio. Conjunctio means joining. It's considered to be a relatively neutral thing, but there are slightly more negative cards or symbols in this reading than positive ones, and so Conjunctio will favor a little bit more towards the negative end of the spectrum. But because we're Leos and we're awesome, we can make this into a good thing. So we'll figure out how to do that before we're done. We're only less than halfway through our reading here, so let's talk about finances. Okay. Now, in finances leading into career, we see Rubeus. Oh, let's switch over to the horoscope view. Yeah. Okay. So we see in the second house, which represents money, we see Rubeus. Now, that means things are topsy-turvy. It means high energy. Doesn't necessarily mean bad, but it means that it could be bad. So you gotta make sure that you're containing that energy. Don't overspend. Don't get too manic about accumulating new things or having those experiences that you want to make yourself feel good. Don't go too far, because we've got this Rubeus, this intensity in your house of finances. Now, in your house of career, the 10th house, we see Puer, which is very similar. Both of them are related to the energy of Mars. Puer represents sort of like beginnings, like that youthful springtime, intense energy. It represents doing things that are sort of not necessarily all that well thought out, and just sort of like going for it. Now, it can pay off, and in this case, it seems like if it pays off, it's more going to be a long-term thing. In our ninth house of learning, though, we've got acquisitio. So there's learnings taking place. There's new wisdom coming into your life that will give you in the future the ability to make more money and to go further in your career and go further in your life than you were before. But it's a little bit, right now, you're a little too rambunctious, maybe a little manic, maybe a little, slow down a little bit, let things relax, realize that it's a long-term thing, and just move forward slowly. Now, in terms of love, we have a very positive one. The sign is Fortuna Major. Now, what Fortuna Major means is the major good fortune, and that actually is associated with the sign of Leo. You're in terms of relationships, you're in a very favorable place this month. If you're not presently in a relationship, this may be the month that you meet someone who's either going to be a long-term partner or someone who's going to be your spouse. Very long-term successful possibilities this month. That doesn't mean that if you meet that crappy guy at the bar who's not going to treat you right, that you should just assume that Jason said that, so this has to be don't be dumb. But there's a possibility that you may meet the person who you're meant to be with. So just be open to that possibility as well. So in other words, don't just go with whatever comes along just because you heard me say something. But at the same time, be open to the possibility that there really may be, a very important relationship opening up for you this month. Now, if you're already in a relationship, that's still a very positive thing. It means that relationship is really flowering. It's really coming into its own, into a long-term, beautiful thing. Now, if you're in a relationship that's like, if you've just broken up with someone or you're just about to break up with someone, it means it's for the good. If that's the trajectory you're on, Fortuna Major in your house of relationship, it's the right thing to do. In other words, you really can't go wrong relationship-wise this month because that's a very positive sign. As far as health goes, we see conjunctio in there, which is kind of a neutral sign. If you're having ongoing health problems, it's probably a sign that things are going to move. You're going to connect with someone who's going to help you move those in a positive direction. Although it's not necessarily going to take that positive direction isn't going to necessarily take place this month. If you don't have any health problems, it probably means there's really nothing for you to worry about. You're going to be fine. Everything's you're moving in the right direction in your life. The conjunctio indicates connection. It indicates joining. So I think that you're going to do well. Now, there's one thing I haven't mentioned this house in any of the other readings, but because I'm talking to Leo, I'm going to mention it. In the 12th house, which represents things that you're worried about, things that you're concerned about, we see carcer, which means being stuck and trapped. So there may be a certain fear that where you are, the path that you're on right now is going to confine you or suffocate you in some way. And I don't have an answer for you on what exactly that means, but it's something that I want you to consider, because if you're feeling that sense of trappedness or you move into it this month, it's something it's in a deep place in your mind, and you need to figure out how you're going to deal with it. Now, it's possible that you may do that in a way that's a little bit rash, because you've got Rubeus and Puer and various, especially if it has something to do with your career or finances. So just try and be a little cautious, because there may be a greater sense of you being stuck than is really warranted. Okay, so the general energy of this month, it's a little bit more on the melancholy side, but positive things in your relationship. So that's kind of a general reading. If you're interested in having a more personalized reading, and I love doing readings for Leos because we have so much in common. But if you want to do get a totally free personalized reading, go ahead and sign up for my mailing list, and you'll learn how to get a personalized mini reading from me absolutely for free. And I'll see you next month.